Hello everybody and welcome to another modified Triumph segment. Today I'm going to show you my fuel injected V8 Stag motor. So this should be of a lot of interest to all of you out there with Triumph Stags. So what we've got here is a standard manifold into which I've put injector holders. So it's got 8 injector holders. You can see it's all been ported there nicely so it doesn't interfere with the airflow. Then I've got these fuel rails. You can buy this fuel rail material from places like Rocket Industries and off the internet, and that allows you to make a fuel rail and the injectors just plug straight in. Now the injectors that I'm using here, in order to keep a reasonable budget on all of this, these are just V8 Falcon injectors. They're out of a 5 litre, so they're well and truly big enough for a 3 litre Triumph Stag motor. You can buy these, again, you can buy these on the internet or just get them from the wreckers second hand. They're very cheap to buy. So staying with that theme of keeping this all budget oriented, I've modified the top of the manifold and put this adapter ring onto it where the twin CD Strombergs used to go. Now the idea there is to make it easy to mount a Commodore throttle body. Now that's just off a VN Commodore. For those of you not in Australia, that's Buick. Very cheap to get, very common in Australia, probably overseas as well. The reason I like these is because it's already got an idle motor mounted on it. It's already got the throttle position sensor. It's got a hose pipe fitting there so that you can hook up the breather from the rocker cover. So that just simply bolts onto the manifold like that, and then it'll obviously require some sort of air cleaner. So I could imagine you could put a 14-inch round air cleaner that clamps onto that base there. Okay, so we've got our manifold all set now. The next thing we need to do is to be able to tell the computer where the crankshaft position is. Again, keeping with the budget, what I've done is I've mounted a Hall effect sensor. That's just a sensor out of a Falcon or Commodore distributor, and a cutter disc. Again, you can get these on the net or just pull them out of existing cars. So this will give the computer the signal to let it know where the crankshaft position is. Now we're not going to get too fancy. It's not going to be sequential, but that's really not an issue. But it allows you to use your original distributor with minimum amount of modification. Now, to run the thing, we're going to need an ECU. We're going to need a computer. Now, my favourite computer is this one here. This is a Holley HP. The beauty of these computers is that they're self-learning. So, once this is hooked up to the car and a base map goes into it, which I'll show you in a moment, the ECU reads the oxygen sensor and adjusts the mixtures for you. So if you don't want to, you never have to take this car to a dyno and have it dyno tuned. So you save anywhere between $300 and $800 on dyno tuning by having this tune itself. This is my running jig here, and I've got a Triumph Stag motor mounted in here, computer wired up to it and so forth, so that I can demonstrate everything on it. You can see our VN Commodore throttle body mounted on there, and if I lift this distributor cap off here, you'll be able to see the Hall effect sensor mounted in there and the chopper disc and so forth. So that's just a standard Triumph Stag distributor, just with that conversion put in it, and it's had the vacuum advance and mechanical advance locked off so that the computer can take care of all of the timing duties. So I've got a fuel pressure regulator over here, a little fuel tank for running it, and on the ignition side I've got an MSD. I like the MSD because it acts as a igniter and also gives you a much better spark than an igniter and a coil. But it means we don't need multi-coils or anything else. So we've used the original factory manifold, the factory distributor, and just put this cheap throttle body on it. So that's that side of it. Now I'm going to show you how the computer works. This is our Holley ECU. We've got it all wired in. As you can see, there's quite a few wires here. All of these won't be used, but they're quite easy to take out of the plugs. This is used for air conditioning, nitrous control, water spray on the intercooler, a whole lot of stuff that we're not going to use. So that's the main loom there that runs down to the engine. That controls injectors, coolant sensor, throttle position sensor, idle motor, and so on and so forth. So I'll just give it a little start up here so you can hear it run. There we go. Okay, when you open the software, this is what you're going to see, and we're going to go to this one here that says download from ECU. So we'll press download from ECU. That's just sync the computer to the laptop. That's it. We're ready to go. So if I go to USB link, this brings us online with the computer so we can see what's happening live. And we'll bring up this set of gauges. Looks pretty impressive. Some of the things aren't connected. We don't have oil pressure connected and fuel pressure connected to this, or the miles per hour to this laptop. The motor's only in a test jig, so obviously we're not going to see miles per hour. So we'll start her up now. It's just steadying up. Alright, so you can see our idle RPM here. This is our air-fuel ratio here. We've got it set at about 13.5 to 1. This is a pretty old motor, this, but I'm very lucky to have been lent this motor, and it was Kevin out at Classic Car Centre out at Biwa who was kind enough to lend me the engine so that we could do all of this on it. Down the bottom here you can see that it's gone into closed loop and it's learning, which means that the computer is now looking at the oxygen sensor and it's adjusting the mixture to suit. So if we close that, we'll go offline for a moment. I'll turn the motor off so we reduce the noise. And here we have the engine parameters. So this is telling us that this is our Stag motor. It's 8 cylinders, it's about 160 cubic inches. We're using a Bosch oxygen sensor. It's multi-point fuel injection. We're not sequential, so we're just bank to bank. We go to ignition parameters. It's a custom setup. That's what we're using here because we're using a distributor. And when we go into here, you can see cam sensor not used. We've got a points output that drives our MSD unit. So it's all fairly straightforward, all fairly simple. So this motor is going down to David Clark at David Clark Automotive in Rydalmere in Sydney. This is for his own personal car, which I believe is a Triumph 2500 station wagon with a Stag V8 in it. Now once this is in his car, all he has to do is drive it and it'll learn and tune itself. Alright, so you've seen the motor run. This is how you do a V8 Stag motor on a budget. But this doesn't just apply to Stag motors. This sort of setup can be done on any V8, or for that matter, even the 6-cylinder Triumph motors, or any motor that you can think of.